I consider Worcester Academy the formative years of my life, the biggest and more important ones.
For the first time in my life, being at Worcester Academy, I felt self-confidence in my academic work.
We're all here to achieve the honorable.
I hope every girl that's here can live by the motto of achieve the honorable.
It's been something that I've tried to live by, you know, for good or bad. I've always tried to keep that in the back of my mind.
Achieve the honorable.
What coeducation did for us was affirm that achieving the honorable goes beyond gender roles.
3 words, very simple, but very beautiful and very impactful.
The early 1970s were a time of profound change in the United States, marked by economic uncertainty and growing demands for social equality. Against this backdrop, the feminist movement gained strength, challenging traditional gender roles and achieving major victories like Title IX in 1972, which prohibited sex-based discrimination in federally funded education. This law opened new doors for women in academics, athletics, and leadership, reshaping American schools and universities for generations to come. In response to broader social changes, Worcester Academy began a gradual shift toward coeducation in the late 1950s, first admitting women to its summer program in 1959 and later allowing limited enrollment in academic courses by 1969. In the 1974 to 75 school year, the Academy officially became coeducational. This transition to coeducation marked a defining moment in the school's history, aligning its mission with a changing world.
When I started here in 1973, the school was really in dire straits.
The school was struggling financially. Enrollment was going down, as was happening in many private schools and other schools in the area.
I don't remember exactly, but I would say the student enrollment was roughly 250 to 260. It was very low enrollment. It was a very quiet campus.
Wages were stopped for the professors. Open positions were cut. Other teachers were looking to leave. They weren't getting very good quality students. It was at the time that Vietnam was going on and the protests, and some students were coming to the academy who were just looking to do like PG years to get into colleges to avoid going into the draft.
And there were a lot of discussions at that time about what to do about the school. Would the school drop the middle school? Would it drop the boarding department? Would it close? Would it move off the Hilltop here? Would it merge with other schools in the area, Shepherd Knapp and Bancroft? None of those decisions were made. So in December of 1973, the Board of Trustees voted to go coeducational. However, when the board voted to go coeducational, they didn't really have a plan to implement it. So that was in December of 1973. John Bloom became head of school in March of 1974. In order to attract families, John thought that the best way to sell the school would be to have a busy, active, vibrant, hopping, enthusiastic campus with a lot of activity and a lot of life to it. That's hard to do when you have 250 people on this campus. So John had other ideas in mind to create such an environment. He rented out the swimming pool to the Worcester Swim Club. He rented out Warner Theater to the New England Repertory Theater Company, which took up residence here and put on a number of plays. He rented out the pit, which had a lot of uses over the years. He rented out the pit to a gymnastics school. And he also, this was one of his most controversial moves, he rented out Dexter Hall to Worcester Junior College. One other thing he decided to do was start a summer institute for international students, hoping that when those students came for the summer, they would also stay for the school year. So I think it's fair to say, with all of that going on, coeducation was certainly part of John's plan to grow the school. However, when you consider that most of those other things were short-term stopgap measures, I think it's fair to say that John Bloom saw coeducation as a very significant part of the long-term growth and health of the school. For one thing, his daughter Nadine became one of the first girls to enroll here.
They decided they were going to go with coeducation, and it was going to be for the fall of 74. But January of 74, they had the faculty daughters come and join the student body. So I was one of two juniors. Carol Orkozeski was the other one who was my age.
So my dad was a teacher here, Fred Orkozeski. He was a teacher in the music department. And the headmaster, as well as the board, had approached my dad, as well as some of the other faculty, about having their daughters attend here for a half year to begin with, to start working out some of the details of coeducation. We arrived here in January of 1974. It was bitter cold out, so the first shock that we had was walking across campus from one building to the next in the snow and trudging back and forth.
Well, now we lived on campus, and I was now one of 6 seniors. So 4 other girls joined us that fall.
I was one of the first women to go to Worcester Academy. I went just for my senior year. I had 2 brothers who were in school there and a sister who joined later on. And it was kind of part of my family. I felt like I was the, one who was leaving the place where I was comfortable, the place where I knew kind of the way things worked completely, and I was going to a new adventure. And I was very thankful for it, a little bit afraid of what was going to happen. But I felt like a pioneer.
I come from a family of 5, and I had an older brother who graduated from high school, and he was a gifted athlete. And because he was so young when he graduated from high school, and he had a year of eligibility, sports athletic ability left, my parents decided to send him to Worcester Academy. This is the story I was always told, that when Worcester Academy went co-ed, they reached out to siblings of people who had enrolled or had graduated. So when that offer gets chanced to me, I remember how happy my brother was. And I asked to go. And then the Blooms, Mr. and Mrs. Bloom, who were the headmaster, because there were no dorms for girls, let me stay with them.
Focusing on why we came to Worcester Academy is very important. I was there for 2 years. I will briefly state that I, prior to that, did go to the Walnut Hill School and School of the Performing Arts. However, I needed to go to a very specific ballet school in Boston, and Walnut Hill was unable to afford that to happen. And so we looked for another school that was closer. And we selected, of all places, we selected Worcester Academy, knowing full well that I would more than likely be the first non-faculty co-ed to attend.
Before coming to Worcester Academy, I was a student at a local all-girls Catholic high school. In my junior year, I had the thought that because we had to wear uniforms with knee socks and skirts, dresses, that it was very cold in the winter. And I decided that it would be a good idea to take a survey of the student body. If that we could get the results and bring it to the student council, and then to eventually the administration, if we could only wear pants or leggings or something warm. And I was called into the principal's office, and she told me exact words were, "How dare you start a petition without my permission?" And then proceeded to tell me that I was not going to be welcome at the school in my senior year. And shortly thereafter, my mother was reading the Worcester Telegram and Gazette, and she saw an article saying that Worcester Academy was going co-ed. So she and my father and myself made an appointment to meet, have an interview with Headmaster Bloom. And I told him the same story. And he looked at me and he said, "You're exactly the kind of young woman that we want at Worcester Academy. You have leadership, you have initiative, and we would love to have you here. And so welcome."
At first, it was very awkward and, very uncomfortable. The boys did give me a hard time, and I ended up being on the butt end of many pranks.
Most of my classes, I would say, maybe all of my classes, I was the only girl. There was one situation where a teacher came over and he put his hands over my ears, and then he said something to the rest of the class. And it was clearly because I was a girl and they were the boys.
I did notice that when I got a better mark on a paper or a test, some of the male population did not like it. And that made me work harder.
So they posted the honor roll in front of the office, and all the students are gathering around to see whether they're on the honor roll and where they are, and their number. It's all done. It was done, by number. You were numbered. After we looked at, a group of us had looked, one of the boys came over to me and he says, "You're taking class standing away from the boys." And I'll never forget that. That was, something that said to me, I'm different.
One of the other big challenges that we faced was lack of ladies' rooms. There were only a couple of them on campus at the time. So it was quite a challenge trying to negotiate all of that and get to class on time.
When I was a student here, there was a woman by the name of Marie Henry. She was really one of the backbones of the math department. She was the only female faculty member here for many, many years. She taught in Kingsley, obviously the only female teacher there, she also was the only female in Kingsley. So there wasn't even a restroom for her in Kingsley. The point is, if she ever had to use the restroom facilities, she had to cross campus and go to Walker Hall, where there was the one restroom for all the women on campus.
Hi, my name is Patricia P’18, formerly Patricia Shepard. Some of the students will remember me as Patty Shepard, now Patty P’18, Patty P. I came to Worcester Academy in 1982 as a physics teacher. Being one of the early female teachers here at Worcester Academy was initially a little scary to think about. I remember my very first day here, walking into the teacher's room, and I was the only female in that teacher's room, and the male teachers sort of looked up and looked back down and continued to grade their papers.
So my name is Anita Glazer Sadoon. So Anita Glazer was my name when I was a student, and Sadoon is my married name. And I graduated in 1980, and I was a student for 4 years. So 9th through 12th grade. I didn't have a female teacher at any time during high school. All my teachers were men. But that just didn't occur to me to feel weird, that was odd.
It was definitely a school that was a boys' school when I came here. The majority of my students were boys, not female. But I very quickly had the opportunity to be a role model for those girls that were coming in, that they were trying to, grow within this environment that gave them the opportunity to, compete. And even though there were not many of us teachers or female coaches, those that were made a big impact.
My name is Sarah Bard Sullivan. I graduated in 1981. When I came to the school in 1976 as an 8th grader, there had only been women, girls, for 2 years. And at that time, it really was business as usual. I wouldn't have thought of anything if I was a boy or a girl. We were just all here.
First and foremost, the number of females in the school grew. The number of people in administration, more department chairs, more programming, more, staff support. It was clear that the female voice was valued and was impactful here.
I just felt like that there was no difference between women and men in the importance of their education.
Just that I always felt very welcome at Worcester Academy as a female student. Everything felt like there was equal access, and it didn't feel like there was a bias.
I never felt that even though coeducation was relatively new then, I don't think any of us girls felt like we were at a disadvantage because maybe there was 3 times more boys here than girls.
I don't know that I really struggled with being a female student, but there was more boys. I think I struggled more with chemistry and physics than I did with struggling day to day. I loved Worcester Academy. It was my mom's idea to send me here, and I loved all my 5 years.
I didn't feel like I was a super trailblazer because it was almost easy. Maybe somebody else would feel differently, but I felt very encouraged while I was at Worcester Academy.
Females here were treated on equal ground, and I remember if you went into Doc Samko, who was the athletic trainer, if he was working on the leg of a varsity basketball player and you came wobbling in, he dropped everything. It would go right to you. So, there was so much respect that was given to, the females that were here by everyone.
My best friend at Worcester Academy was Debbie LaCoy, and we were best friends the whole 4 years. We met the first day freshman year because she started as a freshman, and of course I was kind of nerdy, so I had my notebooks and my perfectly sharpened pencils, and she came up to me the first day, and in her way, she just nicely took my pencils and snapped them in half. And that made me laugh, and we were friends ever since.
A lot of my memories are around theater and around being in Warner Theater.
I was in a couple of plays. I'm not a good singer. I would like to be a good singer. I am not a good singer. And then I did a lot of behind the scenes, so I was also the stage manager and a couple of other things like that. It was great. It was a great group of people.
The theater group was really fun. We became so close and so close-knit of a group that you did everything together. You went to lunch together. Our hangout was in the Levinson room. They had a nice big table, and we would sit and do homework there. You would sit and do homework there while you were at play rehearsal.
I do believe I started with the choir, but when it became the musical, Miss Bossity said, well, why don't you try it? And I said, why not, right? Trying to get all the experiences in. So I did. So it was Godspell, a great play. Loved this music, already knew the music. It was a great experience, of course.
So in the spring of my 7th grade year, Mr. Blackburn, the athletic director, gathered us in the dining hall to say, okay, we need to talk about the fall. We can field one team because of numbers. So we had a vote whether it was going to be field hockey or soccer. And I think it was unanimous for soccer. So that fall, Mr. Shane Height was the coach of the soccer team.
We didn't have tryouts in 1976 because there weren't a lot of women that played soccer. Anybody could play. Anybody of any athletic ability could play. And it just was a camaraderie.
So he tirelessly, taught us the game, the skills, and the moves, and he'd show videos, and he was really tough. He worked us really hard.
John Liller, I don't know if he was the assistant coach, he was very helpful on the soccer field as well. I just remember the conversations, or, the confidence, the building up, the camaraderie, the wanting to, help each other, getting us to work together. That's important in life as well, so that was helpful.
It was a great team. I think the first year we were 500, and every year after that it kept getting better and better.
Softball began without a lot of pomp and circumstances. In fact, one year we still did not have a field.
We practiced on the quad. There were, holes in the ground, and, we'd go for a fly ball and, fall over and sprain our ankle. And
for some reason, there was a mess up with the uniforms, and we never did get our uniforms. So we wore the soccer uniforms for our tops and just gray sweatpants on the bottom.
So on that team, there were a few that had played, organized softball outside of school, but the rest of us, I had never played before, but, I had some athletic ability. And the first year, we were 0-9.
And the coach was actually Tommy Blackburn's assistant basketball coach. So he was a basketball guy, not a softball guy. See, all the coaches we had really didn't know about coaching women. They just coach at a school like this, like, okay, you're coaching the girls because we need another coach. And he was awesome. His name was John Bridge. He was an excellent coach.
John Bridge was the coach, and he was so committed to the softball program. In the next year, we were undefeated. It was the first undefeated female team at Worcester Academy. So we went from 0-9 to, 9-0.
And for that, even though we didn't have uniforms, we did get a silver bowl. While it was great to have a silver bowl, and clearly I still have it today, I think the more important thing was celebrating with the team and the coach about our accomplishment.
I think the best part of Worcester Academy in the late 70s is women athletes, or women in general, were treated like an equal to a guy. In women's sports in the 70s, it wasn't like that.
All the teachers at Worcester Academy were the best teachers I've ever had. And they just took such care. It was their life. And it was their message, the way that they just handled education and took it so seriously.
Janet Macco, Chris Ginty's mom, Miss Ginty's mom. Janet was a school nurse here. Janet Macco was such a force, and she was a voice, and she gave so much, social emotional support to the females that came. She had 2 girls herself, so she was really, not only was she, the quintessential health professional, but she was also the quintessential mom of girls.
Mrs. Macco, Janet Macco, she was very helpful in regards to keeping us going. She took care of us. She made sure we were on the right track and doing what we were supposed to do. She had barbecues for us. I have a picture of her actually making the hamburgers, but she kept us busy. We had events, and whether it was other people, I don't know, but she was right there in the picture and us when we were at the dorm at Stoddard. Janet Macco, she was very helpful in making it a home away from home.
Mr. Orpiseski, who is also the father of Kira Orpiseski, and we worked on the basketball team together. But I did like an individual project class with him because at the time I was heavily into music and I thought I wanted to be a composer. And Mr. Orpiseski played at the Boston Pops.
Name is Fred Orpiseski. Taught at Worcester Academy for 5 years. I never liked the word taught. I was impressed when I was able to share knowledge that would be helpful to each student or each person that I was working with.
My husband and I came to Worcester Academy in the fall of 1974. But Dr. Sonia Glazer came, I think, the same year I did.
She was born in Poland. Her family was deported to Siberia during World War II. She came to the United States initially on a postdoctoral fellowship, which was going to be a 1-year thing. She met my dad, who was American. She married my dad and settled here. Worcester Academy was, the perfect fit at that moment because they presumably were looking for some women faculty. So to get a PhD chemist on your faculty who was also a woman, I guess, was the right fit for them at that time, too.
So the first period of my day as a freshman was in earth science with Dr. Sonia Glazer. And it was in Kingsley Hall. And so you walked up the steps, and the first door to the right after you entered the 2 main doors was her classroom. And it always smelled of chalk and sun because it got great lighting. And she always had a smile on her face, and she was always standing behind her desk, welcoming us.
Dr. Glazer was the sweetest woman. She was there to help you. She was smart as can be. She was very patient, very mathematical.
She was also a fantastic teacher, very passionate about earth science. But that was always a very welcoming way to start the day in her classroom.
Elaine Bloom, who was Elaine Willie when I was a student, and a lot of people will know her as Elaine Willie. She was chair of the language department when I was a student. I fell asleep on Mrs. Bloom once. Her classroom was on the 3rd floor of Walker, and I was sitting in front of a nice sunny window, and I dozed off. And that was a mistake. All of a sudden, I got woken up, screamed at me, "Sleepy, wake up!" I learned not to fall asleep on Mrs. Bloom ever again.
We were just in our little bubble here trying to have fun and work hard. Now that I look back on it, I feel like this campus was very inclusive and very respectful. At the time, we had a lot of kids here from Iran, and then the Iran crisis happened, and they weren't allowed to come back, and it really disrupted school here for a bit for the population. We had a lot of kids from Asia, and we had a lot of kids from all over the country.
I just love the fact that there were students from other countries, other backgrounds. We were all one family, really. It was a very warm group. We had foreigners from different countries, and I loved
every minute of it.
The family part of it that was funny is my mother loved to, because of being on campus and being around all the international students, loved to learn the international cooking. She loved to cook. And she was learning all the main meals and the things that the kids liked from their homes. Thanksgivings, when people couldn't go home because it was too short a time to travel to their foreign lands, she had them over. So for Thanksgiving, we always had a bunch of foreign students with us that had no place to go. And she'd cook this huge, more than just a turkey dinner. She always cooked their meals.
But it just didn't have a private school feel of, it almost felt like a working class private school where everybody was accepted, people that were very different hung around each other. And I just was really grateful to be at a place that you could be yourself and somebody who is completely different from you, whether they were the theater person or the person from another country, they could be themselves and everybody just connected and got along. And I hope that's still true because I really valued that. And it was a unique experience for me, and I don't think I've gotten that anywhere else again. So I really appreciate that.
I would dare say it's even better than a family. It's even better than a family because that community of like-minded, spirited people and the character of these people, bar none, just 5-star.
If I wanted to give advice to the girls here, go out after your dreams. Don't be afraid. We survived here as students 50 years ago, forging paths. And those paths were forged for a reason. And these women who were the history makers at Worcester Academy, listen to their stories.
Well, it is strange to be asked for advice, as if I actually have some great wisdom to go with my white hair. But I think my main advice would be to enjoy school and explore things that are interesting to you. Don't be scared to try new things.
Failure is inevitable in life. Bumps in the road are inevitable, but it's okay, and it's a course correction. And just living a purposeful life and valuing our abilities and matching your abilities with opportunity.
Take advantage of everything the school has to offer you. Get involved in things, join a club. You have to assert yourself and take advantage because there's so many wonderful things that this school offers. Builds your resume, builds confidence.
Be kind to yourselves and to others. Be curious, like always curious. Ask questions, learn as much as you can. Be a leader. No matter what you do, be a leader at it.
Everything I hear about Worcester Academy now, I like. It's not the same, but it shouldn't be. I mean, it changes. And one of the things I would say to students is what I think they're doing. They're learning, they're enjoying the experience, they're exploring not only the academy world, but they're ready to explore the rest of the world.
You simply try and do the best you can with your God-given talent. And I still live by that last statement after the last curtain call.
If you are blessed to have a Worcester Academy education, it is a gift, and open it.
What are my hopes and dreams for Worcester Academy's future? I think they need to just continue to be a place where they can inspire young men and women to be the best that they can be. There's so many problems in the world, and we need smart kids who care and who will go the distance and put the time and effort in to making the world a better place.
Well, I think this 50th anniversary is tremendous. And so my hope is that It continues not to be a bubble, meaning you have international students, you have people from different parts of the country, different socioeconomic groups, and I think that's really important to continue. As opposed to having sort of a myopic view of the world, I think it's really important to expand that. And so my hope is that, which I see happening anyway, is that the Academy continues to embrace that.
I just hope that the girls that go to school here feel like they've gotten a foundation to make their voice heard. You know, because I sometimes think when you're in high school or college, maybe you're not the first person to raise your hand because you're timid and you're afraid you might have the wrong answer. But just know that, you know, your foundation here and wherever you go next, whatever you do next, this foundation should be able to give you the confidence that you have something positive and a contribution to make. You have something that's important to be said and be heard.
My hopes and dreams for Worcester Academy stays in the right trajectory, and what I see is perfect.
What I wish for Worcester Academy is that you always find your footprints and your breadcrumbs back to the Hilltop.
WA remains steadfast to the mission, core values, and to our school motto, achieve the honorable. And that these honorable themes will drown out the rest, because doing the right thing will never go out of style.
Women continue to play a very powerful role within the community, whether as students or as teachers, administrators, leaders. Women continue to defy the odds by breaking stereotypes, by inspiring creativity and innovation. I think women are the heart of the community, and I will say that, you know, the beautiful thing about this shift and this change is that it's caused us to understand the importance of equity, to make sure that we're creating space for everyone, again, to feel valued, to feel seen, to feel supported, and to feel heard.
I'm just so glad that this celebration is allowing the women in our community to know each other, to know each other's legacy. Well, this year for sure, the legacy is leadership. Leadership takes a diversity of perspectives and backgrounds. Every conference room I'm in is better because we have women in leadership roles here. So I'd have to say, as I think about the school, and I think about the way that we have become stronger in leadership, I give the credit to the women who are in those roles now, and the trailblazers who made that possible in 1974.